I am Sarah from Texas, and I love all reality TV and Jeff Lewis. So if you do too, make sure you're following me everywhere so we can chat about it. I'm going to update you on this because Melissa Pfeimster has finally spoken out about the feud with Teresa Guidice over the podcast. So last weekend I made a couple of stories because I was wondering, I'd heard some rumblings, but I hadn't seen or heard anything publicly said about the Namaste Bitches podcast just disappearing recently that Teresa Guidice did with Melissa Pfeimster. But Melissa Pfeimster finally spoke out to DailyMail, and let's get into it. So I made a couple of stories about this because I was wondering what was going on. And the next day, Melissa Pfeimster talked to DailyMail on Father's Day, it looks like. So basically, she says there's been some terrible lies said about her, and the rumors are that something happened between Melissa and Louis at BravoCon November 2023. Melissa has since said that she suffered a miscarriage during BravoCon, and obviously that was very devastating for her. She felt like she finally had to come out and talk about it on her podcast. But everyone says that ever since BravoCon, things were just tense on the podcast with Melissa and Teresa, but they weren't saying anything publicly. Melissa says, regarding the podcast, people have made up some pretty terrible lies about it and me. I could say a lot more on the other reasons I stepped away, but again, that's not who I am or what I do, Melissa said. So like I said, I noticed they had unfollowed each other on Instagram, and they have, but also the way Teresa spun it on Watch What Happens Live last week was just she called her podcast a rebranding and didn't mention anything about Melissa Pfeimster. And her podcast, instead of Namaste Bitches, it is now with the same company, and it's called Turning the Tables with Teresa Guidice. And I guess I listened to a little bit of it. I guess it's going to be about her memoir that she wrote a while back. Is anyone listening? So that's what's going on. I'm glad Melissa finally said something. Goodness, Teresa, oh gosh. And her podcast is still called Side Piece that she's going to have, but she is dealing with a beautiful, healthy, we hope, pregnancy with her third baby, and we wish them all the best. All I know is it's kind of hard to talk about these stories, anything but Teresa, because her fans are so invested, and so are Melissa Pfeimster. So if you want to get into the comments, there they are, and you can chat about what you think about this podcast feud or friendship ending, I guess.